So for those of you that are unaware, the OptiFine mod is a mod that gives a much needed frame rate boost to Minecraft as well as a lot of other performance boosts. So I wanted to put it to the test today and find out if it's really worth using. OptiFine versus vanilla Minecraft, which one is going to win? So the way I'm going to be testing this is by setting up a bunch of different scenarios, such as loading up a new world and generating as much terrain as I can, and a couple of other tests. And I'm going to be doing this on a fresh installation of Minecraft. And I'm also going to be doing this on a fresh installation of the OptiFine mod as well, so that all of the settings are going to be default. The only settings that I've changed is I've set the view distance to 16, which is as far as it used to be able to go. I set the brightness from moody all the way up, and I set my frame rate to 150 because my monitors can do 144 FPS. So the first test is the new world loading test. So what I did is I generated a new world and I used the same seed both times and flew in generally the same direction. In order to get a set flight speed, I set my game mode from creative mode to spectator mode so that my flight speed would be equal to that of creative mode, and then I scrolled up on my mouse wheel 7 times to increase the speed because otherwise the terrain would generate just fine. And as you can see on Minecraft 1.10.2 vanilla, you can see that world loading is already starting to struggle, and the more and more that we fly out, you're going to notice this weird blinking going on with the world, almost like chunk errors. Now, if you do stop and allow the world to load, it will load just fine, but it shows that Minecraft 1.10.2 does have some pretty critical issues when it comes to generating a new world. And after flying around for a bit, it was pretty clear that Minecraft was not going to keep up with world generation at all, or if it was just going to be this weird blinky mess. So now I really wanted to test out to see how OptiFine would fare in this test, and in my estimation, this is where OptiFine was going to do the best. And I was right. So loading up a brand new world with OptiFine 1.10.2 and then setting my speed to the same speed, the world generated just fine. If anything, it stayed well ahead of my flying speed. It was really impressive to watch. So from there, I decided to increase my speed more and more and more and more just to see what it would take to have OptiFine not generate the terrain properly. And I set my flight speed from 7 scroll wheel clicks to 15 to 20 to maximum overdrive, and OptiFine just didn't let up all that much. There were a few instances where it did look like it wasn't going to load up properly, but for the most part, OptiFine kept up and did an amazing job generating the world. So the next 2 tests were a little bit silly and ultimately didn't show that much of a difference, but I wanted to test them anyways. So the first one was me exploding a set amount of TNT over a set piece of land, and OptiFine had a little bit of an advantage here, but again, ultimately not much, where the explosion took 23 seconds with the OptiFine mod and 26 seconds on vanilla Minecraft. And the second test was me having a set amount of mobs in a pit and just staring at them and seeing what entity lag was like between the 2 versions, and I ultimately got around 3 to 6 FPS between both versions. Not really too much of a difference here. So the next test was one that I really wasn't too sure about because it didn't involve world generation, and that was loading up a Minecraft world that already had a fairly low frame rate, which was my peaceful map. Because of the amount of torches and just generally all the crap that's on my map, I get a fairly low frame rate when I am in the overworld area right in the middle of the map. So on normal Minecraft, I decided to test out this frame rate, and I got somewhere between 46 and 120 FPS, depending on what direction that I was looking in. The detailed results are going to be on screen, but when I was using OptiFine, I got much better results with a minimum frame rate somewhere around 70 FPS or so, and I went as high as 135. So I had a higher minimum and a higher maximum using OptiFine, so a much better result. So the very last test that we're going to do is another one that involves loading up a pre-existing world, but this time I'm going to be doing it on a server, and I'm going to be walking up Main Street on the MC Magic Disney World server and recording the minimum and maximum frame rate of that process. And on vanilla Minecraft, I got a minimum frame rate of 22 frames per second and a maximum frame rate of 57 frames per second. But again, using the OptiFine mod, I got a minimum frame rate of 34 frames per second and a maximum of 76 frames per second, a massive improvement. So that about wraps it up. I feel like this video pretty conclusively shows that there is a significant advantage to using OptiFine even under its default settings. Now, obviously, the OptiFine mod has a lot of little things that you can tinker around with to get an even higher frame rate without affecting the visual look of Minecraft itself. So 100% of the time, I will recommend using the OptiFine mod versus not using the OptiFine mod. So yeah. So anyways, guys, I hope you all have enjoyed this video, and I hope you all enjoyed this little experiment. My name is AntVenom, and I bid you all farewell. Thanks so much for watching.